those who haunted Edgar Allan Poe, and nor am I one of your Hollywood movie ectoplasms. I am a man of substance, of flesh and bone, fiber and liquids, and I might even be said to possess a mind. I'm invisible. Understand? Simply because people refuse to see me. Like the bodiless heads you see sometimes in circus sideshows, it is as though I've been surrounded by mirrors of hard, distorting glass. And when they approach me, they see only my surroundings themselves or figments of their imagination, indeed everything and anything except me. We have all been invisible in our lives. There have been people who refuse to see us as we truly are. In The Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison describes a man who is discriminated against for his race. Though he is human, just as everyone else, he goes through his days in fear of what cruel happenings will occur to him by his prejudiced peers. No one acknowledges his existence. He is An Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison. I am not complaining, nor am I protesting either. It is sometimes advantageous to go unseen. There, too, you are constantly being bumped against by those of poor vision. Or again, you wonder if you truly exist. You ponder whether you simply aren't a phantom in someone else's mind, say, a figure in a nightmare which the sleeper tries with all his strength to destroy. It is when you feel like this that out of resentment, you begin to bump people back. And let me confess, you feel that way most of the time. You ache with the need to convince yourself that you do exist in the real world, that you are a part of all the sound and anguish, and you strike out with your fist, you curse, you swear for them to recognize you, but alas, it's seldom successful. One night, I accidentally bumped into a man, and perhaps because of the near darkness, he saw me and called me an insulting name, but I sprang at him, seized his coat lapels, and demanded that he apologize. He was a tall, blonde man, and as my face came close to his, he looked insolently out of his blue eyes and cursed me. I pulled his chin down sharp upon the crown of my head, butting him as the West Indians do, and I could feel his flesh tear and the blood gush out, and I yelled, "Apologize! Apologize!" But he continued to curse and struggle, so I butted him again and again until he went down bleeding heavily on the floor. I kicked him! I kicked him in a frenzy because he still uttered insults, though his lips were frothy with blood. And in my outrage, I got out my knife and prepared to slit his throat. Right there, beneath the lamplight in the deserted street, I grabbed his collar with one hand and And then it occurred to me that the man had not seen me. That he, as far as he knew, was in the midst of a walking nightmare. So I stopped the blade, slicing the air as I pushed him away. He lay there moaning on the asphalt, a man almost killed by a phantom. It unnerved me. I was both disgusted and ashamed. The next day, I saw his picture in the Daily News. And beneath read a caption stating that the man had been mugged. Mugged. Poor fool. Poor blind fool mugged by by an invisible man. I found a home, or a hole in the ground, as you will. Now, please don't jump to the conclusion that because I call my home a hole, it is damp and cold, like a grave. There are cold holes, and there are warm holes, and my home is warm. It's warm and full of light. And I say all this to assure you that because I say I live in a hole and am invisible, it is incorrect to assume that I am dead. I am not dead, nor do I live in a state of suspended animation. Call me Jack the Bear, for I live in a state of hibernation. My home is warm and full of light, and there's a certain acoustical deadness in my home that when I hear music, I don't just want to hear it. I want to feel it with my whole body. I would love to hear thousands of recordings of Louis Armstrong singing, "What did I do to be so black and blue?" You know, perhaps I like Louis Armstrong because he's created poetry out of being invisible. However, I think he's unaware that he is invisible. I can hear you say, "What a horrible, irresponsible bastard." And you're right. I am one of the most irresponsible beings that ever lived. But irresponsibility is a part of my invisibility. In any way you look at it, it is a denial. But to whom am I responsible for when you refuse to see me? Responsibility rests upon recognition, and recognition is a form of agreement. Take the man who I almost killed. Who was responsible for that near murder? I don't think so. You can't give it to me. He bumped me. He insulted me. Shouldn't he, for his own personal safety, have recognized my hysteria, my danger potential? He, let us say, was lost in a dream world. And couldn't he have controlled that dream world, which, alas, was only too real? All dreamers and sleepwalkers must pay the price when the invisible man is always the person to blame. But what did I do? What did I do to be so black and blue?